Hello, welcome back to a new video in the Introduction to the Linux Command Line series. In this one, we're going to be talking about shell expansion. So what is shell expansion? Expansion is when you type in a command and just before it gets executed, the shell would manipulate the command to expand it. So think of shell expansion as this. You could use certain syntax that would make it that if you type in a command, it wouldn't run automatically as you just typed. First, the shell would rewrite your line, filling in any shortcuts, expanding any patterns, and substituting values, and then it runs the final result. Shell expansion is an automatic rewriting step. Think of it as autocomplete and find and replace happening invisibly before the command is executed. Let's look at an example. You type in ls, you get the contents of the current working directory displayed. So what if you type in echo? Well, echo would print anything that you give it. So it would just echo it. So hello, it prints hello. If you echo and you paste in those, it'll print them. So what if you execute echo and an asterisk? It's going to print the contents of your working directory as if you just typed this. Why? Because this would actually be translated by the shell to everything that's in the directory that I'm looking at the moment. If we type in echo de and an asterisk, that's only going to match desktop because it'll only look at files that start with de. We could also do echo asterisk and s at the end, and that's only going to match downloads instead of desktop. So you pretty much get the point here. Asterisk is going to match basically any character. All right, let's look at brace expansion now. So I'm going to have those curly braces and ABC in the middle, and that's going to print ABC. So I can use that to create something like this. So file1.txt, file2.txt, file3.txt. So you get the point. Whatever is in here is going to be duplicated, and this would be substituted first, then this, then this. I could do also this, and that's going to expand it into a list. Now, I can go big if I want. Same works with characters. Same works with if you want to specify the step. So the step here is 2. So I can make that, let's say 200. And I'm going to have steps of 2 in the middle. I can manipulate the start and the end. You get the point. I'll also manipulate the steps. All right, let's take a practical example here. So say you want to make a directory called projects, and you want to make 3 directories inside. You want to make source, tests, and docs. So if you actually execute this and you ls, you see that project was executed. Now remember, this is going to be expanded into make directory project/source, project/tests, project/docs. So when I go inside project, I'm going to get docs, source, and tests. Could also, so see here, I've created this file called config.txt, and I would like to basically copy that file, make a copy of it as a backup before I edit the configuration. So I can do this, and now I see that I have config.txt and then config.txt.backup. So what actually happened here is as if I said config.txt, config.txt.back. That is the result of executing this. So this actually, the fact that this is empty has produced only this, and then this has an extension at the end, and it has produced this. Now, let me show you one last thing. So if I go ahead and delete basically those config files, and I attempt to do the same thing I just did, I'm going to get an error because no such file or directory. So this is not going to check if the file exists on the system or not. This is just merely string substitution. So keep that in mind. Let's look at another way of doing expansion, which is the tilde expansion. This symbol, right? So this symbol basically refers to your home directory. My home directory is this home.hasm. That's the directory of my user. Now you could use that tilde with a username after. So that would be, so the root user has /root as their home directory. Since I have a user called hasm, then that's going to print my directory. If you have a user called John, that's going to print their home directory. You can also use it to print your current directory. So I'm going to change my directory to desktop, and then I'm going to use it with plus at the end, and that's going to print the current working directory. And if you use it with minus after, it's going to print your previous working directory. So I can be in etc and then change back to, I'm using it here to refer to my home directory. So instead of typing in /home/hasm, I would just type it in as tilde / and then say desktop. And if I repeat this command, I get this to be my previous working directory and this as my current working directory. Let's look at another way of doing shell expansion. So I'm going to define a variable here, a shell variable. So I'm going to say name equals, and my name has or hasm, and that's going to be a variable that's stored in the current session that I have. So if I echo, and I'm going to use parentheses, and I'm going to use a $sign name, that's going to go look up the value that's stored in name, which I just set it to has, and is going to print that. I can also put it between curly braces like this, and then add more stuff. Actually, it would make sense to do this, and that's going to substitute the value. Now, if I go ahead and close that session and open the session again, try to echo my name, well, that's not going to work because I haven't set my name. So what I can do here is I can say, right, so what does that do? That says if there is no value set for name, then I'd like you to use this as default. So I can come here and set that to John. And if I execute that again, well, there is a value that's set, so it does not need to use the default value. I could also use a hash before the name of the variable, and that's going to count the number of letters that are stored in the variable, which is 4, as we can see here. All right, let's take another example. So I'm gonna create a file, I guess a variable called file, and I'm gonna store it report.txt.txt. And I'll do this operation, which is basically find and replace only the first match. So if I execute this, it's going to find its first match here, .txt, and then it's going to print. However, you can change that with a very simple /, and that's going to find and replace all the matches instead of just the first match. And that's it for part 1 of shell expansion. And in the next video, we're going to talk about more ways to do shell expansion. We'll see you.